My name is Sarah Delaney, and the year my life split into a before and an after was when I turned 13. If you asked me to name the exact moment my family decided I was scenery in my own story, it wasn't dramatic. It was a note. A neon sticky square slapped on the refrigerator. Staying with friends for a bit. Be back later. Take care. No names. No explanation. Just my mother's elegant handwriting that somehow looked like it didn't care. They flew to Bali the morning of my birthday. My older sister, Camille Delaney, posted a photo at the airport, pink luggage beside her, captioned, "Family adventure begins." My younger sister Nina followed with palm tree emojis and a sun-drenched selfie. I sat on the steps of our small house, my backpack on my knees, confident someone would show up for me. An aunt. A neighbor. A mix-up fixed. No one came. Streetlights blinked awake. A stray cat watched me like I was the one who didn't belong. I microwaved a frozen burrito I hated and ate standing at the counter, pretending the hum of the appliance was conversation. By day 2, I insisted it was a misunderstanding. By day 4, another thought crept in, quieter but sharper. Maybe it wasn't. Being the middle child had always meant being the space between exclamation points. Camille had medals and applause. Nina had recitals and glitter-colored cakes. I had responsible, which adults used as a softer word for invisible. But being forgotten on purpose turns silence into something with teeth. 6 days in, I left the library wearing exhaustion like a sweater, a stack of books in my arms like armor. The heat shimmered hard enough to erase the edges of things. That's when a dark sedan slowed beside the curb. The window rolled down. "Sarah?" The voice was surprised, and half familiar. It was Uncle Adrian Hale, the wealthy one who'd stopped going to family gatherings long before I'd learned long division. My mother called him arrogant. Now I knew the translation: he doesn't let people cross his boundaries. His eyes moved over my backpack, my sweaty hair, the too bright "I'm fine" smile. "Why are you out here alone? Where are your parents?" "Indonesia," I said, and the words sounded ridiculous, like naming a planet. He went quiet for a second. Then, "Get in. You aren't wandering around on your own tonight." Every safety lecture I'd ever heard screamed through my head, but hunger argued louder. Hunger counts as danger too. His car smelled like leather and something new and careful, not perfume, just a life that wasn't fraying at the edges. He took me to a small diner with cracked red booths and pies under glass domes. He didn't interrogate me. He let me eat. Only afterward did he ask about school, friends, what made me light up. "History," I said. "Especially the parts everyone gets wrong." He smiled like he discovered a secret about me. When he drove me back to my street, he didn't park. "Pack a bag," he said. "You're not staying alone in that house while they hunt for souvenirs." Some moments don't open doors, they remove walls. His apartment felt like another planet. The guest bed looked too soft to touch. I sat on the edge, afraid to wrinkle the blanket. "You planning to sleep sitting straight up forever?" he asked, amused. "I don't want to mess up the sheets," I whispered. "Sheets get washed," he said gently. "Things exist to be used, not feared." Morning arrived with orange juice in real glassware. At home we had plastic cups from festivals and forgotten birthdays. I held the glass like it might crack from being looked at wrong. "It's juice, not a contract," he said. "Drink." At school, when my teacher asked who would attend my meeting, he didn't hesitate. "I will." Those 2 words loosened something inside me that had been clenched tight for years. He bought me jeans and a sweater. I hid the tags, sure he'd return them. He gave me lunch money. I saved it and ate crackers. Using things felt like trespassing. 12 days in, he caught me crouched over a cereal box at midnight. "Why?" he asked. "Practicing to be a raccoon?" I said I didn't want to take too much. He warmed pasta, set it in front of me, and said, "If it's in this home, it belongs to everyone who lives here. That includes you. I swallowed the ache in my throat. I tried not to cry into the pasta. Weeks passed. No knock. No call. Camille flooded her feed with beaches. Nina posed with seashells. My name didn't appear anywhere. Uncle Adrian went to every conference, every appointment. Eye exam. Dentist. Doctor. Haircut. All the ordinary care I hadn't realized counted as ordinary. He never said I owed him anything. He just called it maintenance, as if I were someone worth keeping in good working order. At 13, I still tested limits. I came home late one night, braced for yelling. Instead, he handed me a sandwich. I'm glad you're alive. Next time text. Otherwise, I assume you fell into a ditch and I'll need to buy a shovel. He didn't just house me. He taught by breathing, not lecturing. He showed me how to shake hands, how to listen, how to exist without apologizing. On my first holiday with him, he gave me a leather-bound journal with my initials. Write what you notice. Especially the small things. That night, my family posted matching pajama photos under a tree. No tag. No message. Nothing. I opened the journal and wrote. Things here are meant to be used, not feared. If it's in this home, it belongs to the people who live here. I live here. The words looked too bold, like they belonged to someone braver. But something warm flickered. Not safety. Not yet. The draft of it. By 14, he had concluded 2 things. My posture was terrible. Underneath it, I had promise. Stand tall, Sarah, he'd say. You're not punctuation. I joined debate. I trembled through my first round and still won arguing about cats. He grinned from the back like he'd known it all along. He refused to buy me a new phone outright. Sounds great, he said. How much have you saved? So I got my first job bagging groceries. First paycheck, split in half. Save some. Enjoy some. Build both muscles. By 16, I spent summers in his office, learning the invisible skills, tone, timing, boundaries, the kind of confidence that doesn't need volume. Half the world bluffs, he whispered once. The other half apologizes for existing. Do neither. By 17, the silence from my family didn't hollow me out anymore, it clarified me. He asked once. How long will you wait for people who aren't coming back? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. College came. Scholarships, essays, grants, nights of ramen and stubbornness. He filled the gaps, not the foundation. Move-in day, it was only him carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs and pretending not to be tired. Don't look for them here, he said softly. Look forward. I did. Years later came the part one wasn't ready for. He began to fade. Missed dinners. Repeated stories. Tremor in his hand. We made a quiet pact of denial. Then one Tuesday the call came. Collapsed. Hospital. White walls and beeping machines. He still joked. 5-star stay if you ignore the food. He took my hand, rare for him. You were never the extra piece, he said. Never. Tears burned. He smirked. Careful. If you soak the sheets, you're paying the dry cleaning bill. That last Christmas, he handed me a gold-wrapped box. Inside was a journal, filled this time, not by me, but by him, page after page of jokes, reminders, lessons, love disguised as practicality. And I realized something I wish 13-year-old me had known. I was never disposable. Never forgotten. Only misplaced. And someone had finally found me and decided I belonged. I didn't run away from my problems, but I knew I needed space to breathe. So I walked. The noise of the city slowly faded behind me as the bus moved past wide rice fields and quiet coastal roads. I watched mountains rise in the distance like silent guardians. The sea moved beside us, waves breaking and returning again, and I thought, maybe that's me too. I break, but I come back. When I finally stepped onto a winding hillside path, the wind wrapped around me, cool and honest. I felt small, but not forgotten. The world was so wide, and somehow I knew God was wider still. I remembered something I once heard: God does his deepest work in hidden seasons. Maybe this was mine. Not a punishment. Not abandonment. A preparation. I stopped at a cliffside viewpoint and looked out at the open ocean stretching farther than my eyes could see. No one here knew my story. No one expected me to be strong. So I let the tears fall freely, and for the first time, I didn't apologize for them. Lord, I don't understand, I whispered, but I'm still here. Peace didn't crash over me like a miracle. It came gently, just enough strength for one more step, one more day. And somehow, that was enough. Because standing between the mountains and the sea, I finally realized. I am not being replaced. I am being reshaped. And the same God who led me into this wilderness already knows the way out. I thought I had left the worst behind. I thought the wind on that cliffside had carried my pain far out to sea. But life has a way of testing what you've learned in silence. It started with a message. Camille. My older sister. A photo of her laughing with friends at a party I wasn't invited to. Nina, my little sister, sent another, a video of herself in a brand new dress, twirling like I was invisible. The sting was sharp, sudden, like stepping on jagged rocks barefoot. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes wrapped in familiar faces, dressed in indifference. I walked along the shoreline that evening, sand cold beneath my shoes, waves chasing my footprints. I wanted to scream at the ocean, at them, at myself. I wanted someone, anyone, to tell me I mattered. But the only voice that came was my own, echoing back, I am here. I am still here. I am not broken. I stopped at a weathered pier, the wood rough under my hands. The wind tugged at my hair, and the salt stung my eyes. I let the tears come, the heartbreak I had tucked away for years, all the moments I had been ignored, forgotten, or dismissed. I let them fall into the waves. Maybe the ocean could carry them further than my own heart ever could. Then I realized something I hadn't before: heartbreak isn't just pain. It's a signal. A reminder. A spark. The same pain that makes you ache also reminds you you're alive. That you're capable of feeling deeply. And that one day, you can take that depth and turn it into strength. I kept walking, my footprints washing away behind me, each step a little lighter than the last. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with fire and gold, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time, a quiet determination, a surge of life that refused to be ignored. I whispered to myself, loud enough for the waves to hear, I will rise. I will take back what they tried to steal. I will build my own story. The heartbreak didn't vanish. It never really does. But I realized it doesn't have to define me either. It could fuel me. And standing there, with the wind whipping through my jacket and the ocean singing its endless song, I understood, my comeback starts now. Because I am Sarah Delaney. I may have been forgotten. I may have been left behind. But no one, can take away the fire I carry inside me. I remember the morning like it was a promise. The sun was spilling across the horizon, soft and gold, catching on the wet pavement of the park where I ran. I ran faster than I had in years, lungs burning, heart pounding, every step shaking loose the weight I'd carried for far too long. It wasn't just exercise. It was freedom. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the months of being ignored, they still existed, but they no longer controlled me. I had been invisible for years. But that morning, I realized something: I had a voice. I had power. And I could choose to use it. The first breakthrough didn't come as applause or a certificate. It came as a phone call from a local community center. They had seen my art, my sketches, the small illustrations I'd poured into a notebook that had never left my bag, and they wanted me to teach a class. A real class. Me, standing in front of kids, showing them how to see, how to create, how to believe. I remember standing on the boardwalk that afternoon, wind tugging at my hair, the sea stretching endlessly behind me, and taking a deep breath. The first students arrived, uncertain, fidgeting, quiet. I smiled. I spoke. And something incredible happened. They listened. They responded. They looked at me like I was someone important. And for the first time, I realized. I am important. That day, I also walked past a group of my old classmates near the park, the same ones who had made me feel small, invisible. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I didn't plead to be noticed. I just walked by, shoulders back, head held high. I was still me, stronger, clearer, unshakable. They glanced at me, unsure. And I smiled, not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally understood. I didn't need them to recognize my worth. I already knew it. Later that week, I received a scholarship notice for a program I had applied to quietly, thinking no one would notice. I sat on a hill overlooking the city, the wind scattering my hair, and read the letter again and again. The words blurred as tears came, but this time they were different. They weren't from being forgotten. They were from triumph. From proof that I could rise, that I could reclaim my life. And in that moment, I made a vow: no more waiting. No more silence. No more letting anyone else define me. The road ahead was still long. The heartbreak would always be part of me. But now, it was fuel. Every step I took through the streets, over bridges, along cliffside paths, was a declaration: I am here. I am Sarah. And this is my life. That day, I realized my comeback wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving myself right. And for the first time in years, the world felt like it could see me, not as someone invisible, but as someone unstoppable. The morning of the competition, I woke before the sun, the sky painted in streaks of purple and gold. The city was quiet, the streets still damp from overnight rain, and I felt a calm I hadn't known in years. Not excitement, not fear, just focus. This was my moment. I walked to the venue, my backpack slung over my shoulder, sneakers squelching softly on the wet pavement. Every step reminded me of the long path that had led here, the fridge note I'd found at 13, the nights of ramen and silent tears, the years of being overlooked, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the endless waiting. Every single step had led me to this exact street, this exact moment. Inside, the room buzzed with energy, competitors and judges moving in rehearsed chaos. I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar rush of nerves, but this time I didn't let it control me. I remembered the waves crashing against the cliffside, the wind tugging at my hair, the quiet mornings watching the city wake. I remembered every lesson Uncle Richard had taught me, every step I had claimed as my own. And then it began. I spoke. I presented my project, every word deliberate, every gesture confident. I felt the weight of every past slight, every invisible tear, every ignored effort, lift as I moved through my story. I didn't just present, I owned it. When the judges announced the winners, my name rang through the hall. I froze for a second, disbelief threatening to tip over into tears. Then I realized, this was real. I had done it. I had proven, not to them, but to myself, that I could rise. Later, walking outside under the warm afternoon sun, I felt the wind on my face, the same wind that had carried my tears years ago along the ocean and across the hills. I raised my arms, taking it all in, the city, the sky, the streets that had once felt like prisons. I was free. I was Sarah. No one had given me this. I had earned it. Every step of heartbreak, every moment of betrayal, every silent struggle had been the raw material for my triumph. I had been invisible once, but now my presence could not be ignored. I paused on a bridge overlooking the river, the water catching the light like scattered diamonds. I whispered to myself, loud enough to hear, this is only the beginning. I am not just surviving. I am building. I am claiming my life. The future was mine, not because anyone had handed it to me, but because I had walked, step by step, through pain, through doubt, through heartbreak, and had refused to stop. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel misplaced. I felt unstoppable. Because I am Sarah. And this is my story, written by me, for me, with every heartbeat, every step, every triumph that I have claimed along the way. I stood on the rooftop of the tallest building I'd ever climbed, the city stretching endlessly beneath me. The wind tugged at my hair, carrying the faint scent of rain and possibility. I closed my eyes for a moment and let it fill me, all the heartbreak, the betrayal, the nights of being invisible, and I released it. When I opened my eyes, the skyline sparkled like 1,000 promises. Every step, every struggle, every tear had led me here. And I realized something simple, yet profound: I belong to my own story. Not to anyone else. Not to expectations. To me. I lifted my phone and thought of everyone watching, anyone who has ever felt unseen, unheard, or forgotten. Your life doesn't need anyone's permission. You are the author, the architect, the hero. Step forward. Claim it. If my story has inspired you, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so we can journey together through stories of resilience, courage, and triumph. Your voice matters. Your steps matter. And the world is ready to see you rise. I looked out at the city one last time and whispered to myself, this is only the beginning. I am unstoppable. I am Sarah. The wind carried my words away, but I knew they had landed somewhere important, in me, and maybe in someone else too.